Well, I'm really pleased to be joined by our current sheriff, Mike Johnson.
Thanks for having me.
Sheriff, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
This is, exciting that you're seeking re-election here. Actually, it's going to be election for the first time is what you're
Correct.
attempting because you were
Correct.
appointed. I got to get that right.
Yes.
So that's what this is all about today, is about bringing accurate information to you, like that, little interaction. So this is, of course, geared toward the business community, the chamber members, and those that are interested in the business perspective in Shasta County and the greater Reading area.
Okay.
So with that in mind, the first question is, it's a warm-up for you. It's to give the audience a sense of your law enforcement background, your platform, and particularly through that business lens.
Okay. So let's start with that. My background and my experience. So I have been in law enforcement for 26 years, and the last 14 of those years have been at the executive level. I've been a chief of police for 2 different agencies, 5 years at the Amador County, little prison city of Ione, and then the last 9 years of the city of Anderson. So, and let's cover the other part that you asked, Jake, about the front end, the appointment, and now running for election. So it's true, I was appointed as the Shasta County Sheriff in August of 2021. And what I have to tell people about that is there's some people that have a little pause with that, or trying to make an issue out of the fact that I was appointed opposed to being elected. And so what I'd say about that is I didn't choose that process. It wasn't Mike Johnson that decided that you're going to appoint me. What happened was the Board of Supervisors at the time they got in the dilemma of needing a sheriff, and they decided they were going to appoint. And when I found that out, and I was encouraged by some people in the community to pursue it, that's exactly what I did, is I pursued it. So I approached each Board of Supervisor individually, made it known that I was interested in the sheriff's appointment, and I pursued that. And the reason I was appointed is because I was the best qualified and best fit person for that job. And if I would have not accepted that appointment, they were going to appoint somebody else. So there was no reason not to compete for that. So back to my experience for that. I have a master's degree in criminal justice. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, wildlife management, and I am a graduate of the FBI National Academy. So my education stands on that. Now, POST, which is the Peace Officers Standard and Training, is the governing umbrella, if you will, for all law enforcement in California. They offer 6 different certifications, and I hold all 6 of those certifications. I've got thousands of hours in training. I started my law enforcement career in Eureka as a patrol officer. I was a youth mentor. I was on the SWAT team. I handled 2 narcotics canines. I was a drug recognition expert, and then later became a drug recognition expert instructor for up and down the state, including teaching at the California Highway Patrol Academy. As that went on, I left and I went to be the chief of police of, like I said, this little prison city of Ione. Learned a lot about corrections, a lot about prisons and jails when I was there. Then on to Anderson, which is where I think is the biggest proven factor for our local Shasta community in knowing what they get with me. Anderson, I came into Anderson at a time when that police department and that community was in a really state of turmoil. I spent the first 3 months as a chief of police in federal court, helping make sure we prosecuted a corrupt officer for that agency, and he was held accountable. And then over time, the men and women of the Anderson Police Department forged the relationship with the community, changed the face of public safety for Anderson, and now dubbed by many, which I'm very proud of, as being the safest city in the North State. So that's a proven commodity is what I'm getting at, Jake. I have been 9 months at the sheriff's office now. I'm very happy. Within the last week and a half, I received unanimous endorsements from the Deputy Sheriff's Association and unanimous endorsement from the Command Staff Association. So those are 2 big votes of confidence, if you will, for me. It shows that the men and women I work with in the Sheriff's Department have the confidence and trust in me, as well as I have the confidence and trust in them. And we've turned that around quite a bit recently from the law enforcement agency that it was to the law enforcement agency that it is now. So that pretty much covers my experience. And there was a second part of that question.
Yeah, just through the business lens, maybe that's one piece, but also it's the platform itself, what you're running on.
Sure. So the platform is there's several different bullet points to that. One is staffing. Staffing for the sheriff's department is really shallow at this point, and we're on this big recruiting effort trying to get enough staff into the agency so that we can do all the things that we want to do. And how that's important to the business community is, we want to shift the philosophy of law enforcement, much like we did in Anderson, from a reactive department to a very proactive and aggressive agency that goes out and looks for criminals before they commit the crimes, get them in custody for various things, and don't let them victimize our business and our resident community. Marijuana is another big one on my platform. As I got appointed, I promised that we would begin marijuana eradication efforts immediately, and we've done that. We had our first operation within 2 weeks of me being appointed. We've continued that up to date. I don't have those stats in front of me, but I just read those off and put them on my website. We're up to like 29,000 plus plants, a bunch of guns, arrests, the whole 9 yards. And we've done that all on overtime at this point. The Board of Supervisors has promised that they will fund a full-time marijuana eradication unit at the beginning of this next fiscal year. I've already begun putting all the infrastructure in place for that so we can go really full bore with that war on marijuana. And that is absolutely key to public safety for the community and for the business community here in Shasta County, because the marijuana, illegal marijuana, organized crime and cartel grows in this county is really just out of control. So that's a big thing for us to go after. And then, of course, public safety in general for the county is a big part of my platform, and trying to make sure that we serve the community better. There's work to be done. There's no doubt about it. People ask me about some of the things or experiences they've had with the sheriff's office or public safety, law enforcement in general here, and there's no doubt that there's plenty of room for improvement, and that's what we've been working on. And especially that turn I talked about where I've gained the support and the trust of the deputies and the command staff. We have turned already in 9 months 180 degrees, and we are getting out there and changing our philosophy about how we serve our businesses, how we serve our citizens, and that level of service that we deliver.
Thank you for that. The second question, you already touched on it a bit, but I'm going to give you a chance to expand on it if you'd like to in any way. In your opinion, what are the biggest issues facing the sheriff's office today? And if elected, how would you overcome those?
Yeah, I guess I did touch on that a little bit already, Jake. I would say, the absolute biggest issue in the sheriff's office is staffing, because I do have all these ideas and programs that I want to put in place to make our community better as far as through law enforcement and the sheriff's office is concerned. But I can't do and accomplish any of those if I don't have the staffing to do it. So being at critical levels of staffing, for instance, in the jail alone, we're just recently 22 positions short. That's a lot of positions to be short, and that's really tough on the staff. So what happens with that, when you have such a shortage within your agency, within your business, doesn't matter what it is, morale starts to suffer, because then the folks that are employed by you have to work a ton of overtime, and they're not getting their days off, and they're not spending their time with their family, and it affects your whole organization from the top down. So I think that is probably the biggest priority for me. That way I could put all those other priorities into place.
Perfect, because this really dovetails into the next question, and it's something that's been core to what you've been talking about lately and focusing on, and something that means a lot to the business community. And that is taking a comprehensive approach to the challenges that we have related to public safety in our county at this time. So you've come out with a presentation that you call the Wagon Wheel of Justice proposal. What do you think should be the approach going forward regarding incarceration and rehabilitation?
Okay, So it's important to note that that wagon wheel that I proposed was just a proposal at this point. We've done no real in-depth RFPs or requests for proposals or anything like that. That's a concept. And I am very much a strong believer of that concept. As you probably know, about 3.5 years ago, I came to the Board of Supervisors and proposed a similar type of plan.
The reason why I know that is because I was right behind you in public comment that day, and
Okay.
it was the first time I had heard it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that was a product of me sticking up for our county because they wanted to put in a large super shelter, is what I called it, for the homeless, if you recall. And I thought that was just going to be a disaster for this community without accountability and the law enforcement side. Now, moving forward as we go as a community, we need a long-term plan of a facility. Maybe not that exact wagon wheel that I proposed, but some sort of facility that has those components and definitely has the other updated progressive type of components where we can lessen the staff to run a facility and we can capture all those other services. So if we go forward with a jail project, a detention facility, and rehabilitation campus, whatever you want to call it, it definitely needs to have those components where we intake people. Accountability is right up top. We don't give away something for nothing. We expect people to participate in their own recovery and rehabilitation. But there's also several wings, if you remember, as I proposed, for incarceration. We need more bed space, and we need to be able to hold the people accountable that just don't get it otherwise. So that model of going forward and being comprehensive, where you have mental health, you have drug addiction, you have education, you have work release, all those things encompassed in this campus is critical for this community. Here's what I've got a lot of input on that lately, Jake, and since I proposed that, and I'm to the point where I think it needs to be like a two-phased approach. We need something immediate to increase some bed spaces that is kind of a Band-Aid, if you will, until we get the larger model in place, but there definitely needs to be a larger model and a longer look down the road for that community. Here's what some people I've had discussions with over the last week about this that I've tried to explain. So when they say, well, why don't you just go for more bed space and more jail space and leave the mental health and the other to the other people, the other professionals? And I said, my first answer to that is, well, that's what we've got now when it's not working. So there needs to be a new plan, something different and comprehensive. And my second answer to that is, let's say, and these aren't absolute numbers, we're just going to throw some arbitrary numbers for an example. Let's say, for example, we have 500 people in this community who take up 95% of our resources, that we're rearresting, that the police, fire, medics, everybody's responding to over and over and over. Now let's say all of a sudden we've increased our bed space to 1,000 beds at the jail. That does not mean that those 500 people are going to be locked up and out of the community and placed into custody just because we have the bed spaces. Most of these people, or at least 50% of these people, have mental health issues, drug addiction issues, or some other type of issues where they need treatment. And on top of that, when they're committing the crimes, a lot of these crimes are low-level quality of life misdemeanors or infractions that they're committing. So just by design, by California law, by corrections and all that, you cannot just lock them up without bail and keep them in the facility. That's why a strict, more jail space model is not the answer for the community. The answer is being able to effectively take these people off the street one way or another, whether it's mental health, drug addiction, or crimes, get them off the street and either treat them and get them productive and back into society, or just start arresting them over and over and over and putting them in jail till we definitely either force them out or we have a change. That's the model that I'm proposing to work, and that's what I look. And why is that big for the business community? Well, of course, you've got things like Cool April Nights, the Reading Rodeo. Just two examples of huge influx of tourism and money makers for this community. And when you can't rely on your public safety, or when people come in and have bad experiences because we have all this going on, or when they even just drive downtown Reading and they're seeing all these vagrants and people and troublemakers and tweakers on the street, it is not a good sell for us. It's not a good environment to keep attracting and bringing these people back to this community. It's not a good environment for a business to want to come and establish in Redding when that's what they're seeing or that's the type of experiences they're having. So if we are objective about this as not only as me as the sheriff, but as partners with the community, the business community, the residents, and we look and have a plan, maybe a short-term and long-term plan, we can effectively change this community. I truly believe that, and we will do it.
Thank you, Sheriff. That was a good explanation, by the way, on that. The final question I have is, this is kind of a short interview, of course, but it gives you an opportunity to make your case, closing remarks, case for support to the business community specifically. So this is open-ended for you.
Okay, so thank you. In closing, I'd like to say this. So I talked about being there 9 months, and now I'm having a 180-degree change in the department and the philosophy. Well, part of that change is because we are partnering with our law enforcement agencies and our other public safety partners to get stuff accomplished. I'll give you an example. We have the largest boating safety freshwater unit in the state. Shasta County does, Shasta County Sheriff's Office. Now, as we talked about staffing and thinning and attrition and people retiring out and the need for more staffing to serve the community. We have Shasta Lake, we have Whiskeytown Lake, we have Sacramento River, all these, we have the Intermountain area lakes, all these places that we're responsible for keeping safe and patrolling. So with staffing dwindling, now I'm reaching out to Redding Police Department, Anderson Police Department, the DA's office, and these other allied partners, and offering them to put people on our boating safety unit. So we have now a multi-agency functioning unit which helps serve the citizens, because the ultimate goal always is service for the community. So we've done that on various avenues, and we've just signed a multi-agency officer-involved shooting critical incident response team. We have CERT, the critical incident response team, which is mental health and law enforcement working together. All these projects are finding new ways to serve the community better, and the business community, of course, is part of that equation that reaps the benefits for us when we up the service for everybody. So as we move into the election, which is June 7th, I hope that voters will take the time and strategically research each candidate for whatever position it is, whether it's sheriff, DA, auditor, whatever it is, your board of supervisors. Research that and know what you're getting, and look for the experience and education and platforms of each of the candidate, and make a informed decision. And I hope, of course, that that decision will be for Johnson for Sheriff. And you can get more information about that on me, Johnson for Sheriff 2022. I have a website there. I try to keep that updated, and I try to keep information going on that. But most importantly, people need to vote. They need to be informed voters. People need to get out and vote, whether that's your absentee ballot or going to the polls. You need to vote, and we need to move this community forward. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity of getting to tell you a little bit about platforms and what I stand for.
And you actually hit exactly on why we're doing this, is we want our business community to know where the candidates stand on the issues of greatest importance to them. So Sheriff Johnson, thank you for spending some time with us and helping to educate our business members.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.